As the snow falls gently outside the frosted windows and Christmas lights twinkle like stars on earth, a little boy on the thin line between life and death whispers a wish into the cold night. This is a story of love tested by time, hope kindled in despair, and the mysterious magic of Christmas that binds hearts long separated. Where the edges of reality and miracles blur, one family will find their way back to each other on a Christmas Eve destined to change everything. But how much of this magic is real, and how much is the result of unshaken belief? The answer lies ahead, waiting to unfold in a journey of redemption and renewal. Hi guys, I'm Kaitlyn, and this is the Stories of Echoes channel, where I tell my stories, and I hope you enjoy every second of the story. The sterile white walls of the pediatric intensive care unit stood in stark contrast to the twinkling lights and paper snowflakes that adorned them. In the center of the room, dwarfed by beeping machines and tangled IV lines, lay 10-year-old Ethan. His once vibrant blue eyes were closed, his small chest rising and falling with each labored breath. The soft glow of the Christmas lights cast a warm hue over his pale face, a cruel reminder of the joy that seemed just out of reach. Emily sat beside her son's bed, her fingers intertwined with his limp hand. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, a testament to countless sleepless nights. She watched the monitors intently, willing each blip and beep to bring good news. The weight of single motherhood, coupled with Ethan's rare neurological condition, had etched lines of worry across her face that belied her 35 years. As she brushed a stray lock of hair from Ethan's forehead, Emily's mind wandered to happier times. She remembered Ethan's infectious laughter, his insatiable curiosity, and the way his eyes lit up when he talked about becoming a scientist someday. Now, those dreams hung by a thread, as tenuous as the wires connecting him to the life support machines. A soft knock at the door pulled Emily from her reverie. Dr. Sharma entered, his kind eyes betraying the gravity of his news before he even spoke. "Emily," he began gently, "we need to discuss Ethan's condition." Emily's grip on Ethan's hand tightened. "Has there been any change?" Dr. Sharma shook his head slowly. "I'm afraid not. The disease is progressing faster than we anticipated. We're looking at very slim chances of recovery without more aggressive intervention." Emily's heart sank. "What are our options?" "There's an experimental treatment," Dr. Sharma explained, his voice measured. "It's shown promising results in similar cases, but it's still in trials. And," he hesitated, "it's extremely expensive." Emily's mind raced. The mounting medical bills had already stretched her finances to the breaking point. She worked 2 jobs, picked up every extra shift she could, but it never seemed enough. The thought of not being able to afford the treatment that could save her son's life filled her with a desperation she'd never known. "How much?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. When Dr. Sharma named the figure, Emily felt the room spin. It was an impossible sum, more than she could hope to raise in a lifetime, let alone in the precious little time Ethan had left. As the doctor left, promising to provide more information on the treatment, Emily's gaze fell on the small Christmas tree in the corner of the room. Its lights blinked steadily, a rhythm that seemed to mock the erratic beeping of Ethan's heart monitor. She thought of Christmases past, of Ethan's excitement as he tore into presents, of the empty space at the dinner table where Michael should have been. Michael. The name brought a flood of conflicting emotions: anger at his abandonment, confusion at his unexplained departure, and a deep, aching sadness for the family they could have been. Emily had long since stopped hoping he'd return, had steeled herself against the pain of his absence. But now, faced with the possibility of losing Ethan, she found herself wishing for any miracle, even the return of the man who had broken her heart. Shaking off the thought, Emily focused on what she could control. She pulled out her phone, fingers flying as she sent messages to everyone she knew, setting up online fundraisers, planning charity events, anything to raise the money for Ethan's treatment. She worked tirelessly, making calls during her breaks at work, staying up late into the night to research every possible avenue for financial assistance. Days blurred together in a haze of worry and exhaustion. Emily moved between the hospital and her jobs like a ghost, fueled by coffee and sheer determination. She watched helplessly as Ethan grew weaker, his periods of consciousness becoming shorter and less frequent. It was during one of these brief moments of lucidity that Ethan's weak voice broke through Emily's fatigue. "Mom," he whispered, his eyes struggling to focus on her face. Emily leaned in close, her heart racing. "I'm here, sweetheart. What is it?" Ethan's lips curved into a faint smile. "Is it Christmas yet?" Tears welled in Emily's eyes. "Almost, baby. Just a few more days." "Good," Ethan murmured, his eyelids fluttering. "I asked Santa for us to be happy again. All of us." As Ethan drifted back to sleep, Emily felt a surge of determination unlike anything she'd experienced before. She wouldn't let her son's innocent wish go unanswered. She would move heaven and earth to make this Christmas miracle happen. Later that evening, as Emily was leaving the hospital to start her night shift, she overheard a conversation between two nurses. They were discussing a new charitable foundation that had been set up to help families in situations like hers. The foundation was rumored to have connections to cutting-edge medical research and substantial funding. For the first time in weeks, Emily felt a glimmer of hope. She approached the nurses, her heart pounding. "Excuse me, could you tell me more about this foundation?" As the nurses shared what they knew, Emily's mind raced with possibilities. This could be the breakthrough they needed, the miracle she'd been praying for. She made a mental note to research the foundation as soon as her shift ended. Walking out into the cold December night, Emily looked up at the star-filled sky. The Christmas lights lining the hospital entrance twinkled like earthbound stars, and for a moment she allowed herself to believe in the magic of the season. "Hold on, Ethan," she whispered into the frosty air. "Mom's going to make this Christmas one to remember, I promise." With renewed determination, Emily headed to work, her mind already formulating plans. She didn't know it yet, but the wheels of fate were already in motion, setting the stage for a Christmas Eve that would change everything. The fragile hope that had sustained her was about to be tested in ways she could never have imagined, as the true spirit of the season prepared to work its magic on her fractured family. The soft glow of Christmas lights flickered against the stark white walls of Ethan's hospital room, casting dancing shadows that seemed to breathe life into the sterile space. Emily sat in her usual chair, her fingers absently tracing the pattern on Ethan's blanket, her eyes fixed on the steady rise and fall of his chest. The beeping of monitors had become a haunting lullaby, a constant reminder of her son's fragile state. A commotion in the hallway drew her attention. Raised voices, urgent whispers, and then silence. Emily's heart leaped into her throat as the door creaked open, revealing a face she hadn't seen in years. Michael stood in the doorway, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination. He looked older, more weathered, but unmistakably the man who had walked out on them years ago. Emily felt a surge of anger, quickly followed by confusion and an emotion she couldn't quite name. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, careful not to wake Ethan. Michael took a tentative step into the room. "I heard about Ethan. I had to come." Emily's jaw clenched. Now, after all this time? The tension in the room was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. Michael's gaze shifted to Ethan, his face softening with a pain that Emily recognized all too well. "I know I have no right to be here," Michael said softly, "but I needed to see him, to see you both." Emily stood, her body trembling with a mix of exhaustion and emotion. "You can't just waltz back in here and expect—" Her words were cut short by a small, weak voice. "Dad?" Ethan's eyes fluttered open, focusing on Michael with a mix of disbelief and hope. The monitors beeped erratically, mirroring the sudden spike in emotion in the room. Michael moved to Ethan's bedside, his movements hesitant, but drawn by an invisible force. "Hey, buddy," he whispered, his voice cracking. "I'm here." Emily watched, her heart in turmoil, as Michael gently took Ethan's hand. The look that passed between father and son was one of recognition, of a bond that had somehow survived years of absence. "I'm sorry, Ethan," Michael said, his words heavy with regret. "I'm so, so sorry." Ethan's lips curved into a weak smile. "You came back," he whispered. Emily felt tears welling up in her eyes, a complex mix of emotions swirling within her. She wanted to scream, to throw Michael out, to protect Ethan from the pain of another potential abandonment. But the look on her son's face, a glimmer of joy she hadn't seen in months, stopped her. As the night wore on, Emily found herself in a surreal dance of past and present. Michael explained his absence, a struggle with addiction, a journey of recovery, and a desperate desire to make amends. His words were punctuated by the steady beep of machines and the soft glow of Christmas lights. "I know I can't undo what I've done," Michael said, his eyes meeting Emily's. "But I want to be here now, for both of you." Emily's response was cut short by a sudden change in Ethan's monitors. Alarms blared, and within seconds, the room was flooded with medical staff. Emily and Michael were ushered out, left to watch helplessly through the window as doctors worked frantically over their son. In the chaos of the moment, Emily felt Michael's hand grasp hers. She didn't pull away. They stood there, united in their fear and hope, as the minutes ticked by, agonizingly slow. Just as the clock struck midnight, ushering in Christmas Day, the alarms fell silent. The head doctor emerged, her face a mask of disbelief and cautious optimism. "I can't explain it," she said, shaking her head, "but Ethan's readings, they're stabilizing. It's as if—" Emily and Michael rushed back into the room, hearts pounding. Ethan lay there, his eyes open, a soft smile on his face that seemed to light up the room more than any Christmas decoration. "Mom, Dad," he said, his voice stronger than it had been in months. "I had a dream. I saw an angel, and he told me everything was going to be okay." Emily and Michael exchanged glances, a moment of shared wonder passing between them. As they gathered around Ethan's bed, the first rays of Christmas morning sun began to peek through the window, bathing the room in a warm golden glow. In that moment, surrounded by the beeping of machines that now signaled hope rather than despair, Emily felt something shift within her. The anger and resentment she had carried for so long began to melt away, replaced by a tentative hope. Michael's hand found hers again, and this time she squeezed back. "Merry Christmas," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Emily looked at Ethan, then back at Michael. "Merry Christmas," she replied, allowing herself to believe, just for a moment, in the magic of second chances and Christmas miracles. As the day progressed, doctors marveled at Ethan's inexplicable improvement. Tests were run, specialists consulted, but no one could provide a medical explanation for the dramatic turn in his condition. Emily and Michael remained by Ethan's side, watching in awe as color returned to his cheeks and strength to his voice. The hospital room, once a place of despair, transformed into a haven of cautious joy. Nurses, caught up in the spirit of the moment, brought in extra decorations. A small Christmas tree appeared in the corner, and garlands were strung along the walls. As evening approached, Emily found herself alone with Michael in the hallway while Ethan napped. The silence between them was heavy with unspoken words and years of hurt. "I know I have a lot to make up for," Michael said softly, "and I know it won't be easy. But I want to try, Emily, for Ethan, for us." Emily studied his face, searching for any sign of the man who had walked out on them. Instead, she saw remorse, determination, and a flicker of the love they once shared. "It won't be easy," she agreed, her voice barely above a whisper. "But maybe we can try." As they re-entered Ethan's room, they found him awake, his eyes bright with a vitality that seemed impossible just a day ago. He patted the bed on either side of him, inviting his parents to sit. For the first time in years, the broken pieces of their family began to realign. As night fell on Christmas Day, the room filled with quiet laughter, shared memories, and tentative plans for the future. Outside the window, snow began to fall, blanketing the world in pristine white. Inside, warmed by love and the spirit of the season, a family found itself on the path to healing, not just in body, but in heart and soul as well.